morning. So I hope that we're all caffeinated up and ready to go, yeah? Has everybody had enough coffee this morning? I kind of feel like you haven't, okay. Maybe I should have saved you some. I think I may have cleared out Starbucks this morning. But anyway, so we are focused on partnerships today. And partnerships and collaboration is my love language, all right? I know that there's supposed to be 5 others that obviously I didn't do quite so well at, but collaboration and partnership I'm good at, right? So I thought as an introduction to today, as we've got these plenary partnership speakers who are going to come up and they're going to talk about their work, and then they're going to talk about how they work together, we thought that it would be good to have some kind of roadmap around partnerships. And I really like the idea that before the speakers come up, that we sort of evaluate our own partnerships as our own organizations, right? Because it's really easy to kind of say, oh, well, you know, this is them up there, and they've been doing this for longer than me. But I think that this is kind of a reflection time for us this morning, as we hear our partnership plenaries. So the need for and the challenge of partnerships. Oh, I've got the dibber, haven't I? Sorry, Joe. Ooh, oh, it worked. It's all right. Joe knows I'm technically challenged. Okay, so, you know, we all know the need for partnership. And collaboration. We have to write it in our proposals, right? And in our log frames, you know. This is what people like to hear that we're doing. And so we put a lot of rationale around, you know, we collaborate together. But actually doing it on the ground is a little challenging. I'm not saying it's easy. And I think that having kind of a little bit of framework around the need and the challenge will kind of draw us into some of the pathways into partnership. So my staff will laugh, but I always say that what we're addressing is a networked problem. It's a global networked problem. And so we need a global networked solution. And if we're going to have a networked solution, we actually have to have strategic and intentional partnerships, because that is the only way that we're going to network, right? We're not going to network if we just sit on our own in a corner, however brilliant our ideas are. And I said this last night, that, you know, what I love about this group is that we have so many sectors around the tables here. We've got community-based, we've got NGOs, we've got IOs, we've got government, we've got academia, we've got donors, we've got legal, we've got financial regulators. I mean, this is a really great broad group. And so I feel that we have the capabilities to address issues that we would not have as one sector on our own. No one sector owns this issue. I think, honestly, and I'll point at myself as an NGO worker, I think the NGOs in the early days, right, thought that they owned this issue, and that, you know, we could say, okay, government and everybody else, just step back, private sector, we've got this, right? Clearly that didn't work so well, so having everybody come together is critical. Now, the other thing that we don't talk about very often is no one model fits all partnerships. And would we all love to, like, just hang out and love everybody in the room? Of course, but that's not the reality. The reality is that some partnerships may be with agencies or others that we wouldn't normally align with, but actually it has to be vision and strategy first. And that also partnerships are not fixed, they're dynamic. You know, once we've developed a partnership, it doesn't mean that we continue that for the next 15 years regardless, because it's like, wow, it took me so long to develop that partnership, I better just stay with it, right? We need to know that partnerships change, and we iterate partnerships as our programs and as the issues change. Defining partnership there was a couple of comments last night on definitions, and I said I'm not going to get into the whole definition conversation around trafficking and slavery. Definitions around partnerships, wow, that's even more challenging because every context, every culture, the history of each organization and individual frames partnerships in a different way. So building partnerships is a challenge, and sustaining them is even harder. So I like to draw on people who are far brighter than I am. And there is a professor at Ohio State University called Chris Cloth, and he developed this working together continuum. And I picked this up maybe just about 4 or 5 years ago. And for me, it was an aha moment because I kind of felt that, you know, we should all be sort of like, how do we get us all collaborating and all really wanting to work together? And this helped me understand that, oh, we don't all have to be, you know, collaborating. There's actually different aspects of partnership. And the framing around this is identifying the best partnership. So, so looking at this continuum, so it starts off with the independent, where there's basically no common ground identified or explored. So maybe when we're starting an organization or starting a project, we come in with these ideas, and it's like, okay, we're very kind of insular focused often in the beginning. Those who've done their baselines may move into the next level much quicker, but when we're kind of focused internally, we tend to fix at independent until we're driven into partnerships, right? So independent is often our kind of start point. Coordinate. So the framework around coordination really is that there is a common agenda. Often there is very little like deep sharing. So there may be just a specific aspect to coordinate on. It may be a campaign. It may be just a limited project for a short time. And we're not going to share much deeper than that. And that's appropriate for some partnerships. We have partnerships in Cambodia with government that may look like this, right? Then we come to the next level of cooperate. So here, the commonality is normally around a community or a constituent. So the cooperate could look like client referrals. So, you know, I know that I have an aftercare program and I need to get them into a vocational training program, and I don't have one, so I'm going to refer out to somebody else who I know has one. So we have a limited sharing, maybe around that one client, but it doesn't go broader than that. So it's very specific focused. So that's the cooperate. Then we have collaborate. So the collaborative framework is what I set Chabdai up on. And that is that it's not just having a common community or constituents, it's about having a common purpose, a much bigger framework than just one piece. So it's building together, and it's building something bigger than just the structure of my organization or the structure of my project. It's having something, a bigger goal. And it's an open sharing of information. So I would share with another organization how we've done repatriations from China, or I would share with another organization some of our policies and frameworks around child protection or financial policies. So we're beginning to share much deeper, more proprietary information, and in that manner, this partnership framework has a much broader influence, has a much broader impact, and the internal organization exchange and the accountability is at a much greater level. And then the one here at the bottom is to integrate. So this is where you come to a point where you say, okay, I think that this project would be much better if we integrate it with another organization. I use the example of Chabdai developed an online platform called the Freedom Collaborative. And we reached a ceiling in terms of our technical capacity. I approached Liberty Asia, who had much better technical capacity than us, but we had the grassroots capacity, and it just made sense to integrate the project. And so Liberty Asia oversee the legal platform, and then we do a lot of the grassroots interaction. And so this is a joining forces. This is a fully merged picture of partnership. Now, when you look at this, there may be certain time frames that change within it. Maybe you integrate a project for a certain time, and then you move back into collaborating. You may begin with coordinating with a specific partner, and then that coordination goes well, and you begin to build trust. And so you think, okay, I think that we could move to the next level. If we now began to cooperate, we could actually have a much better impact for our clients that we're working with. And so this is a really good framework just to consider within your partnership. Oh, am I supposed to point it up? Ah, okay. Now, the question, and this is all within an OD, an organizational development framework. So this was not developed for, the anti-human trafficking movement or the anti-slavery movement. It was actually developed as an organizational development toolkit, and my background is organizational development. And so the way that that this is framed is really helpful in how we actually get to those partnerships. And these are called the 6 key conversations. So we don't just launch ourselves into a partnership, but we have these conversations that help us mitigate the risks, but embrace the opportunities. So the first one in this, there's basically 3 key aspects to the benchmarks for partnership, and that's goals, power, and trust. Okay? And the positive of that, the partnership possibilities are amazing. If you do not have shared goals and there is an imbalance of power and there is not trust, you can basically forget that any of those partnerships are going to work. So looking at the shared goals, this is the first of the key conversations. And this is moving beyond kind of the surface conversation. This is going into the detail of what and how. This is where you sit down with the potential partner and you discuss your negotiables and your non-negotiables. So you discuss what you can compromise on in terms of goals, and you discuss what you will not compromise on. And this is the defining of the partnership. This is when you begin to have indicators of what the partnership goals are going to look like, and they're mutually beneficial. The next piece here, shared power. And the conversations around shared power is really partly leveraging the common and distinct resources that each partner has. So we know as we come to the table that this partner, their core competency is in this area, and this partner, their core competency is in this area. And it's leveraging that within the partnership, understanding that actually we need these distinct resources, but maybe we have some common resources as well. This is beginning to assess expectations. Expectations around the quality and the quantity of the outcomes of the partnership, and who holds the power in those. So having a mutual framework so that all of those competencies are balanced. The next piece, shared view of legitimate interdependence. So this is really the reality check of commitment. This is where you come together and you say, okay, we've kind of assessed our goals and our power structure and how we're going to move forward in this. Now the reality check. Is this going to work? Is this a time that I'm actually going to commit to this, or is this a time that as I look at it all, I feel like, yeah, no, I don't think this is going to work. So this is the reality check of the commitment. Because unless there is a reality check, it's super hard to move on to the next one, which is mutual trust and respect. Mutual trust and respect means that we have to have a certain level of vulnerability, right, within a partnership. And that doesn't come overnight. It takes a long time to build and a really short time to tear down. And often this mutual trust and respect and the challenges, the positives and the negatives are rooted in our own experience of partnerships. They could be rooted in a historical partnership, either with this organization or with another organization. It could be that, oh, you know, I tried a partnership once and it just didn't go down very well, so I don't think I'm going to do any more partnerships. Shared control. So within the shared control framework, we're basically identifying what it takes to use our shared power effectively and efficiently. It's what's needed when we're looking at quality control and transparent systems. So we have to be able to share with each other, well, you know, I said that I was going to do this, and this is what actually happened. We did this, we did more, we did less. And so it's developing that transparent communication framework so that there isn't one controlling over another, but actually we have that shared framework of transparency. And then shared accountability. So, you know, the purpose of partnerships is around results, yeah? We want the results. And so the shared accountability has to be in mutual feedback around those results and how we communicate those results, not between just the partners, but outside. So this is our working together benchmarks. So I'm just going to leave you with some questions here. So as we kind of move into this day of partnership plenaries, these may just help us identify our own partnership status, right? Because each of us are working with partners. So how many partnerships do we have with external entities? Map it. Look at your organization and look at where the other partners are in relation to your hub. So those that are closer to you maybe are your more significant partners. Those that are further out from the center are less significant partnerships. But look at how many you have. Why do you have those partnerships? What's the purpose of the partnerships? How did they come about? How did you initiate those partnerships? Was it at a conference like this? Was there another way that you initiated those partnerships? Think back to the continuum that we looked at. What part of the continuum do they represent? Do you think that, oh yeah, this is much more of a like, you know, within the cooperation? Oh no, this one is a very collaborative partnership. So identify where they are on the continuum. And have you intentionally identified and set out guidelines and outcomes for our partnerships? I love sitting down over coffee or a glass of wine and developing partnerships, and that's kind of how I start a lot of the partnerships that we have. But actually, we then need to begin to identify guidelines and outcomes. And then how can we better develop or change the partnerships that we have to serve our vision and objectives? So we may have had a partnership for the last 10 years, and then we just kind of just left that partnership going because we didn't really want to finish it, so we just kind of left it going. Well, let's have a look at what partnerships we should change. Maybe some partnerships we should stop, maybe some we should change, maybe we should adopt new partnerships. So what changes do we need to make within our own partnership structure? And you know, some of our teams say that Helen loves change, and yeah, I do like change. And so, but you know, there is a natural fear around change and often a natural resistance around change. But I would really kind of encourage you as we now move into this day of just thinking and exploring your own partnerships that you have with, within your organization. So enjoy the rest of the day, and we have got some stunning speakers lined up for you. Thank you.